Hey everybody, good morning. How's everybody doing? Uh, I had the request to do a video on footwork, and so I drafted up a few slides, and let's start to go to go over what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about general motion, stylistic motion, and staying close. So let's get into it. Glorp University. So the very first concepts and what I want people to understand is I say open position a lot when I'm casting matches, and what that essentially means is when players have their sabers down and it's idle positions, they have the opportunity to move anywhere, to swing anywhere. They can do whatever they want. So I outline here you can move freely in any position. Both have idle sabers, can attack with any swing and any style. Um, and when you're in this position, you can freely anticipate and react to your opponent's moves, and they can similarly react to yours as well. So it's an open position where you're essentially waiting for your opponent to see what they do and try to draw out an attack, or for you to see an opportunity or weakness. And so this is called the open position. So let's go to the next slide. Now we're going to talk about challenging. I know it's a busy chart, but we're going to go from left to right and top to bottom. I'll help you through it. So this is where both of you essentially just move toward each other with the intent to attack. Um, and I put two use cases here. So here's to get the basic concept of it. So you swing, other player swings, and you have an intended center of where you want to have your attack. It's where you think they're going to go, and they think you're going to go there. So you swing into them because you think you have a better chance at parrying or what have you. And this almost never happens in this angular kind of motion. If you just go straight forward into your enemy, whether it's a forward or from an open position into just a forward without any crouching or aerials or anything, they can punish that in so many different ways. So this case is not very likely to happen, but the next case we talk about is, and so this is the most common challenge case where you have all these little semicircular patterns. And if you watch high level duels and watch some of the matches on my channel, you'll see a lot of that semicircular and side to side motion that the players engage in. And that's to get an idea of where they're going to move. And the reason why we move in semicircles is because almost every single attack in Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast is a side swing. And so if you're already moving in that side position, you're going to be able to whip that swing out much more quickly than you are in if you just go in a straightforward position. So that's why we move in semicircles, as you see it in a lot of matches. Um, and so it's just extremely common. And it's also very useful if you see a pattern or repeated movement. So if they're constantly going left, 2 seconds, right, 2 seconds, left, 2 seconds, then you can go like, aha, there you are, 2 seconds, I got you. And we constantly probe for each other's weaknesses and opportunities that we can, and and to see opportunities for in fight. And so if I pull up a really basic example from any number of my demos, we're going to be able to see it. So let's see Scorp. Let's just scroll down and see a random one. Give me a second. So I brought up my challenge my challenge with Scorp, and you can already see that semicircular motion that I'm employing in nearly every single step, side to side, side to side. And so that's what we mean when we talk about that. That's just the most common method that duelists use to kind of get around each other, because it's the easiest way to probe for weaknesses and to be ready to anticipate another attack. And with that, we're going to dive deeper into stylistic differences. All right, stylistic differences. So, as a general rule, there's just basic things that high-level duelists will know. Strong stances have wider and longer movements, and they require a lot more planning. So if somebody's trying to take you to a red right or initiates a red right attack and moves in a certain way, and before they even initiate the attack, it's much more likely that they're going to be doing these broad, sweeping motions, because the attacks require a lot more planning, and they want to see where you're going. And so if they mispredict a red hit, they can get easily punished. So they're going to stay a little bit further away from you. They're going to try to draw you into a red right or perhaps even a red left. And the opportunity for them is that you'll fall into it. And the spacing that it gives them is going to be it's a chance to come at you from a different angle from long and far away. Now with yellow, medium stance has semicircular movements. And so that's what we just saw in the video with Scorp and I. So we see a lot of that semicircular movement because we're constantly probing for weaknesses, and it requires a little bit of planning, so the motions are going to be big, kind of like red, but they're not going to be as small as blue, which is what we're going to go on to next. So you see the kind of wider semicircles, but not super tight semicircles. It's pretty likely that they're going to be using medium or yellow stance. Blue movements are small, tiny semicircles or angular. And for this example, I'm going to bring up a match with Windu. So Windu here, and I used Windows Media Player because that was the first thing that came up. It doesn't really matter. I'm just stopping him going. So you can see he's in blue. And as you can see, the movements become so small and tiny because he's looking for the lunge opportunity, and he's also looking for the small blues. And we'll see what happens when if he stays in blue here. Then I might go on. Okay, so he switches to yellow. So he's actually keeping that small motion because he wants me to think that he's still using blue, and also that motion is just conducive for his style as a player. And so some players will do a motion that's classically associated with blue or classically associated with red and then whip out something different, which leads me to my next point. Good players know these movements and can easily figure out which style most players are in. Let's go full screen. And will switch accordingly based on what they think counters that style best. So these are just very general high-level rules. Players will always have their own ways of doing things, and as we just saw, good players also fool people by moving in a manner consistent with one style and then using another. I mean, imagine how screwed up you'd be if you're moving these small angular motions and then boom, red. I like to do that a lot actually with red upper left diagonals, and yeah, so that works quite well. Now let's go on to possible footwork cases. Okay, so the first one is the bait and switch or the feint. What we see here is that player one swings and retreats. Player one chases and goes for it at the initial position. And then P1 goes back a little bit more with the intent to draw you in for an attack. And then 3, P2 chases, and then falls for P1's attack. Useful for luring into red rights and low sweeps. So if I throw out a yellow here, and then I come back here and do a crouching sweep, that's a punish. I can also do some sort of yellow or blue out here, lead P2 back here, and then do a red right. And so this is a bait and switch, or a feint. Very popular among high-level duels. And case 2 is a bully. It's one of my favorite ones. It's a really good offensive tactic. And so essentially, P2 is going to be stuck in that semicircular motion, usually with yellow, maybe sometimes with blue. And your intent here is just bully straight through the semicircle and stop your own semicircular movement. Just go straight through and commit forward. This is really good for red. And so if they're stuck in these side swings and they're anticipating that you're going to do the same thing, you can move in close and smash with red and just keep following through. And that's what I call the bully. Is typically you want to stay very close, and your intended attack location and parry location is just going to be right in their face with the intent to fluster them. You can do that with blue, you can do that with red. Yellow is a little more angular and side to side. You can do it, but that's usually best in yellow when you want to combine that with parries. When you see straight up openings, the bully works best with blue or red. Some forwards by P1 in this case can beat side swings, so if they're stuck in a side swing motion and you pull a red overhead, you can likely get over the top of that and punish it if they're just expecting you to continue the semicircular motion. As I said here, good for sudden red smashing yellow movements. So if they're moving in a yellow pattern and they keep doing it, just smash through it with red and continue through. It requires a great degree of accuracy and practice with red, but I employ it quite often with good success, and it tends to work for me. So that's an example of footwork in the bully case. And then case 3, and the last one we'll talk about for this session, is going to be the provoke and punish. So what I do right here is P1 starts by going in that semicircular motion that we're used to seeing. And then there's a possible swing. And our goal is to provoke P2 in a response, in responding in a way that we want them to respond. So if we swing right here, move in, and they respond in some sort of way, and it especially helps if we know how they're going to respond or if they have some sort of pattern, then our goal is to move out of the way, get behind them, get underneath of them, crouch right next to them, and get to the side of them, and then deliver a brutal punish. And this forces P2 to play on your terms. So if you're provoking a response and then you're moving around them, you've gotten them to do something that you want them to do, and they're playing in your world. And then if you can dodge a close attack and get around it, and we see that many times in these matches with Glorp, then that's a punish. That's a W. I mean, you're wide open at this point. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And I will continue this with more cases, but I'm gonna see how you guys like this video and gather some feedback. And so in the next one, I can, with that feedback, go hard or go home, essentially, because that's kind of what I did with the analytics in yellow, is I got some good feedback, and then I dug deep into the method I thought would break down the analysis best. So I'll leave it there. I'm happy to come up with more footwork and more advanced courses. There's crouching, aerials, there's all sorts of ways in which we could talk about footwork, and I'm sure Glorp would have a lot to say about this as well. It's one of his favorite things to talk about, as could Windu, and pretty much any other high-level duelist. So feel free to leave a comment below for any feedback, and also let me know if you find it useful. So I'm out for now. Peace.